Okay,
And,
let's quickly send this now to Lagos. I understand my colleagues have questions for you.
Well, we actually do have Mogaji Gwega Dejimo here with us. He is the senior Afenifere chieftain. He joins us this morning. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, the rally did hold, but the police eventually they arrested about 49 persons, saying that they violated the ban for that particular protest. So, what point was it that was going to be made, particularly in context of this arrest that have been made by the police?
Good morning, Chamberlain. It's good to be here again. I guess it's a season of sorts, and everything seems to be playing out. The farcical, even the parts of it that are pathetic. We're in a democracy. And we were in a democracy in 2013, 2014, when certain people embarked on similar protests, and people were agitating for something or the other. And I haven't seen anything that is not within the law, unless and except it's one country but two sets of laws. So where do you want us to start from? I'm throwing it back at you.
No, but the thing is, what points did the rally intend to make?
At what point? Well, what I can say is this. I'm not speaking on behalf of the organizers, even though we do have levels of interaction.
Yeah.
But I could say that there was sufficient information from some of the protesters to the authorities, the police, that this is a peaceful thing. And why would it not be a peaceful thing? Why should it be about the location this time around? They've had these rallies in 5 of the other southwest states. They've had it in Oyo. And there was nothing in terms of trouble. And there was nothing in terms of the protesters turning violent. Everything went well in Ekiti. And Moshun was particularly without any issues, free of any molestation. And Akure was massive. The people that came out were in their thousands. So one will now ask, why Lagos? At what point did it turn violent? At the point to which the authorities felt they had to do something because they must have received certain instructions to do certain things. Why would a 14-year-old girl be shot? What was she doing? Did they find anything with her? Why should live bullets be used, even after what happened at the End SARS protest? It simply means that the life of Nigerians suddenly do not matter anymore. It's pathetic, and that is why I'm even venturing out to say it is derisory that a government that came on the strength of protests is now the one that is disallowing it towards the point of which people are being killed. Those people did nothing wrong. I didn't see anything. Did you?
All right, let me even ask you this. So, do you subscribe to the concept of a Yoruba nation?
Well, if it's about the Yoruba nation, the Yorubas have always been a nation. What is a nation? A nation state with everything that goes with it.
In the context of the agitation?
In the agitation, what is the agitation about? It's about self-determination. Some people may want to twist it, but it's no more than that. The AU Charter allows for it. The United Nations has 5 different organs to deal with those who have issues, indigenous people who have issues with the way they're being treated. And I can remember, even our president, when he came in 2015, on his first appearance at the United Nations, he was clamoring for the creation of a new nation out of Israel. He pleaded for the cause of the Palestinians. That was his very first outing ever, that they should have their own country. So why would he do that for Palestinians? Because he felt they had a case. Now, if he feels that the Yorubas don't have a case, then invite everybody to the table. Let us put things in perspective. You don't have to treat an issue like self-determination as if it is a crime. But then, of course, what is the modus operandi of this administration? They treat every problem as if it has to be solved with a gun, and every solution a bullet. And that is one thing that history will not forget.
All right, so we'll hear the case that you say they've got when we return in just a moment. Do stay with us. All right, welcome back. Well, you say they do have a case. So tell us about this case that you say the Yoruba nation has.
The events leading to this agitation could be in some kind of what I would call sequential logical process. You remember that we had a Southwest starting from 1951, the very first indigenous government in the whole of Africa started in the Southwest in 1951. But then we still wanted a situation in which the Yoruba race will be comfortable in a union where they won't be treated like second-class citizens. That was the London Conference in '53 that gave back to the Littleton Constitution that allowed a full federalism to be the way and manner by which the country will be managed. And I remember again then, Chief Awolowo, the leader of the Southwest of the Yoruba, wanted a clause that would say that any of the federating units will have the right to say, I want to go, inserted into the 1954 Constitution, the Littleton Constitution. And the leader of the North then, Sir Ahmadu Bello, accepted that very clause. It was only rejected by Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe and the British. And then, of course, the motion for the creation of the Nigerian state was moved in 1953 first. It wasn't successful by Enahoro, but it was moved again in 1957 by Chief Remi Fani-Kayode, and it was accepted. And the initial date was supposed to be 1959. And the 1959 Constitution, in the making of it, Chief Obafemi Awolowo again raised this idea that any of the federating units, if it feels that it's not going to be so properly treated, should be allowed to go. And that was because he believed that Nigeria was a mere geographical expression. If you want to have a nation, you have a nation that is going to allow the people to be free. There must be equity, there must be equality, there should never be inequity, and there should never be iniquity. We shouldn't have prebendalism, we shouldn't have pakistocracy, we shouldn't have nepotism. And those are the things that have led to the agitation today. But again, the usual suspects didn't want that clause to be put in. In fact, the very first time people were going to say they want to leave this country was in 1953 when the Northerners actually brought the word separation, Araba, into the discourse. So why should it be different for the Yoruba when even the Northerners felt at that time that they too should be allowed to go? And let us face it, the 1963 Constitution, there was no constitutional body, there was no constituent assembly. It was a kind of congregation of the 4 units that said, as at that time it had become 4, that said, these are the things we want, these are the laws by which we want to be guided. And the truth of the matter is that, are we being guided by the laws put together by our founding fathers? In which case, do we have unity in this country? Do we have a free and just nation? Do we? And when Chief Obafemi Awolowo, in his wisdom, composed that anthem, the Afenifere anthem, which has now become the Yoruba anthem, he said it is a duty that we owe, that the way of bringing children into this world should not be on the basis of servitude. Ìgbàgbọ́ wa ni pé bí a ṣe bí ẹrú la bí ọmọ. How a child is born is how a so-called slave is born too. Nobody should be born into slavery. Well, what have we been encountering, particularly in the years ahead after 1979? Is so much of powers to the north, so much powers to the center, and some policies that are against the growth of the South. And I can begin to mention them. And that is the truth about it.
When you said the other times, you said that it seems there are different sets of rules for different sets of people on the same issue. What exactly do you mean?
Well, it's like this. You can imagine a governor, Governor Masari of Katsina. The images are all out there, standing with a so-called bandit who's wrapped in bullets, carrying serious assault weapon of the AK-47 type, in public glare. We had a governor, El Rufai, who publicly admitted on national television of paying Fulani killer headsmen rather than arresting them. And let's be safely international about this. Boko Haram, according to the World Terrorist Index, is the second deadliest terrorist group in the world. And the Fulani headsmen, by the same body, created by the United Nations, and labeling the Fulani headsmen as the fourth deadliest terrorist group. But what do you have? You have government officials in the north, governors, and this federal government doing what I call the 5 Ps. In fact, it might be 6 of the Ps. Letter P, that's to say. 1, they protect them. Like you will see Shigumi being in the company of the same security setup and going into the forest to meet with the same people you call bandits who are fully armed. Rather than arrest them, they are protecting them, they are placating them, almost begging them, they are prevaricating to them, they are pampering them, and they are paying them money. 5 Ps. In fact, let's even say that they do all of this to the people that you might say are privileged, people who have a sense of entitlement to everything. And if you ask me again, when does it become a crime for someone to have the elements of his religion freely owned by him, and then you are splashing that on television and making some kind of story out of what you call a phantom, bulletproof, found in somebody's house? Why are you not showing us the test bill owned by the bandits? Why are you not showing us the rosaries owned by certain Christians that you think are criminals? Why create such a dichotomy? Why? And it's pathetic when you begin to hear the president, Major General Muhammadu Buhari, on national television, saying to 2 governors that he said came to him, saying to the president, we have insecurity in our states, and he's telling them to go back and fix it. What are they going to fix? In 2013, I can remember, I think it was on the 30th of January, somebody will have to Google this. The then President Jonathan was told categorically by candidate Muhammadu Buhari to go and resign if he can't handle security. But he's on his beat now. He's throwing the responsibility at the Southwest governors. Why didn't he do it to the Borno State governor then, when it was only about Boko Haram? So why would we have to be in a country where seemingly, perhaps I should even add, administratively, it is one country but two sets of laws, one pertaining to certain people who enjoy the privileges of the accident of where they are born, and others are being treated shabbily, displayed on television as common criminals. And you want the Yoruba nation. And well, let's face it, what does actually make a nation? If it's in terms of population, the Yoruba in this country are about 60 million. In diaspora, add another 20 million. And then you want to treat them shabbily? You don't want to give them as much rights or as many rights as you give to others? And when you look at the economics of it, the Yorubas are responsible for about 67.8% of non-oil revenue. Go to their Papa Port. The three ports there, Roro, Apapa Port, Tinkan Island, are sitting on Yoruba soil. And those three ports in just one local government, they are responsible for the revenue that I'm talking about, let alone Sebeboda, Idiroko. And where are the other borders? Those other borders are free. People know. But here, where we make all the money, the people are treated shabbily. You don't even find the Yoruba adding any of the important security agencies. We have about 17 of them.
And that sort of brings me to the next point. Earlier on, you talked about coming to the table, as it were. The government should invite, the representatives sort of to the table. And I'd like to know the type of, or the manner in which this should be. Because over time, and even till today, we've had governors on NEC, we've had representatives in the Senate, House of Reps, we still have anyway. So how is it that they've not collectively come together to say, this is what we want, this is what we feel, this is what has been happening, and we're not okay with it? And even up till now, how has it been so difficult to have them come together and say this with one voice?
That's an important question, and I thank you for it. When you have people telling you, go to the National Assembly and sort things out, it is because they know in their deepest state of mind that the National Assembly is owned by them. If people are telling you, go that way, when everybody is asking that we should sit down and talk, it shows that they have the control and they know that they are sending you on what the Yoruba call Arodon. Arodon is like, when we were little and our mothers would tell us, when we are particularly irritating to them, go and collect something from the neighbor. The neighbor knows the language, sends the child to another neighbor, and by the time it is evening, the child comes back home, the mother is free of the trouble. They want to send us on a wild goose chase. Go to the House of Reps. In numbers, they have more than 100 members of the North over the numbers of the South. So how are we going to be able to present our case when it is highly skewed against us? Go to the Senate. To tell you the truth, it is pathetic. There are 19 states, over 17 states. That's a clear six senators plus the one in Abuja, 7 against what we have in the South. What we need is a dialogue. But when the authorities, the president, is not agreeing to a dialogue, when the president seems to have particularly few options, perhaps only one option at any time, when he's dealing with us, and that is to say, I will let them know through the language that they understand. What language are we talking about? A different kind of language to the Igbo agitation, a different kind of language to the Yoruba agitation? Of course, that is what it means. Kill them. That's the language. clamp them down. That's the language. But when it comes to the bandits, oh, give them amnesty. Talk to them. Even suggesting that they pay them. They pay terrorists. But they don't want to dialogue because they believe that they have all the aces. If this country is to progress, then we should have a semblance of a dialogue. In 1999, Afenifere came out plainly in the sight of all.
All right.
Excuse me, can I finish? Because this is an important aspect. Afenifere came out and said that this 1999 constitution, which was not brought out by any constituent assembly, it is not a constitution of we the people, should be thrown out. It was plain. Afenifere even told the governors and the representatives then to boycott Abuja. For some reason, the AD governors didn't do it. But then Papa Ademanjo went to the Okuta panel and clearly stated his case. President Obasanjo realized there was a need to have everything done to change that constitution because it was not workable. And the structure that goes with it will not stand. Of course, he tried his best. There was dialogue, except that there was this idea of a third-term thing that threw it out of control in the National Assembly. In the same manner of having to have a dialogue, Afenifere again approached President Jonathan, and that was the beginning of the Confab report, which was put together by Dr. Okurumu, a senior Afenifere member and leader, and Professor Bolaji Akiyemi, who was co-chair, and Afenifere member too.
All right.
So we have had dialogues in the past, but right now, this administration, this president, doesn't seem to even want to consider all options or any option. If we are talking about options, compromise is the cheapest lawyer. Why can't we dialogue? You don't want to dialogue? Of course we are going to protest. We can't continue to live without dignity. We are born with dignity.
Okay.
And all over the world, the Yorubas are noted for that. Chief Awolowo wrote in 1981 that the Yorubas are slow to anger.
So I guess
accommodating.
The options...
All we want is let us sit down and talk. Excuse me. And then we brought about the 2017 Ibadan Declaration.
Okay, well, we'll get your point.
But then it didn't work.
We'll get that point,
if we asked you for that in 2017 and you are not giving it to us, then we are free to now seek by any means
we actually
the realization
of
self-determination for the Yoruba.
So in other words, I mean, that option will always be there for that dialogue.
Thank you.
That is a fantastic place to let it go. Mogaji Igboega Adejumo, Senior Afenifere Chieftain, thank you very much indeed for your time this morning.